All right, so we're going to go into the second part of our trig functions. We're still going to be working with all 6 trig functions: sine and its reciprocal cosecant, cosine and its reciprocal secant, and tangent and its reciprocal cotangent. Okay, so what we do is we take these triangles and put them on the coordinate plane. And so if you notice, we have an example here. This is the center of our circle. And so you create angle theta with the center, and then we go out to this point. And this is called R because it's considered the radius. Okay. And then since this is theta, your y value on here is considered to be your opposite. And then your x value here is your adjacent. And then your radius of your circle is your hypotenuse, what we know as our hypotenuse. So here I'm going to put HYP. So then using SOHCAHTOA, we are going to do, your sine is opposite over hypotenuse, which for its reciprocal becomes hypotenuse over opposite. Okay. Your cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, which for secant becomes your hypotenuse over your adjacent. And then your tangent is opposite over adjacent, which becomes adjacent over opposite. Now, they want us to write it in terms of x, y, and r. So if we look, our sine is opposite, which we have here labeled as y. So it'll be y over, and then it's over your hypotenuse. But in this case, we have our hypotenuse as r, so it'll be y over r. And so for cosecant, it's the reciprocal, which is equal to r over y. Okay. And for cosine, so for cosine, it's going to be adjacent over hypotenuse, which is our x value, is our adjacent over the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse here, we have it as r, the radius. And then for secant, we're going to flip that around and it becomes r over your x value. All right, and then for the next one, our tangent is opposite over adjacent, and our opposite is considered our y value, and our adjacent is considered our x value. And so for cotangent, we're going to flip that around, x over y. Okay, so we're doing the exact same thing, but in this case, we're going to have a coordinate, and then we're going to have what they call the radius of the circle. So let's go ahead and do some examples so it makes a little bit of sense. So here it says a terminal side of theta is in standard position and passes through point P. Draw theta and find the exact value of the 6 trig functions of theta. Leave your answer in simplest radical form when applicable. Okay, so this is where you start. You start off by graphing the point. So the point is -5, 12. So we're going to take the point and we're going, since it's -5, we go 5 to the left. And so this would be -5. And then it's +12, so we would go 12 up. And so we put a point here. We call that point P. We'll say this is 12. And then the way that you create your triangle, this is very important because there is a wrong way to make the triangle. You start off by going from the point to the center. So you go from that point to the origin. And then you go from the point straight down to your x-axis. You never go to your y-axis. This is why we're practicing reference angles. It's only based off of your x-axis, not your y-axis. So you go down to your x, and this is going to be our triangle. So this angle that it makes inside with the origin, that's going to be theta. Okay. Now this part is our x value. This part is our y value. And then this part is what they consider the radius on. Okay. So then when we are making our 6 trig functions, now you can use opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse. I'm going to use YXR just because this is the way the lesson is set up and you will see it like this occasionally. So for sine, your sine is your opposite, which is y, over your hypotenuse, which is r. Okay. And then for your cosine, it's going to be your adjacent, which is your x value, over your radius, r, your hypotenuse. And then your tangent is your opposite over your adjacent. Your opposite is y, over your adjacent is x. Okay, and so here we have our x value. Our x value is -5, and our y value is 12. Okay, so all we're missing is the radius r. So in order for us to find the r, we are going to do Pythagorean theorem. So we're going to do a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So it's going to be, let me label this, x equals -5, and our y is equal to 12. So it's going to be 12 squared plus, and I'm going to put in parentheses, -5 squared. And remember, the squared goes outside of the parentheses. Equals our radius, that's what we're looking for, squared. So 12 squared plus 5 squared, or -5 squared, is going to give us 169. And then we take the square root, and that is going to give us 13. So that means that our radius here is equal to 13. Okay. So now that we know r is equal to 13, our x is equal to -5, and our y is equal to 12, we can make our trig ratios. So on here for sine, sine is y, which is 12, over your radius, which is 13. Okay, that we can simplify it, so it's going to stay like that. For cosecant, we're going to go ahead and flip that around, and it becomes 13 over 12. All right, now for cosine. Cosine is going to be your x value divided by your radius. So my x value in this case is -5. Do not forget the sign. That's very important. So -5 over, and our radius is 13. And for secant, we're going to go ahead and flip that around because it'll become 13 over -5. And then last is tangent. So tangent is going to be our y value over our x value. So our y value is 12 divided by -5. And then for cotangent, it's going to be its reciprocal. So we're going to take -5 and divide it by 12. And that's it. That's going to be the value of our 6 trig functions. Let's go ahead and try out the next one. Okay, so here we have our point 4, -3. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to graph it so we go 4 to the right. So this is 4. And then we're going to go down 3. So 1, 2, 3, and say this is 3 here. So here is our point P. We graph the point, and remember, from this point, you're going to connect it to the origin. Okay? And then from this point, you're going to go to the x-axis, okay? Not the y-axis, to the x-axis. This is why we practice reference angles, because we are going to need to know in the future what this angle is here. Here we go. So that is our angle theta. Now, this is the y value, okay, which is equal to -3. This here is our x value, which is our adjacent side, and it is equal to 4. And so all we need now is our, what we call the radius, so from here to here, which is r. And so we find that using a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right here. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. In this case, we have 4 squared plus, remember you put the -3 in parentheses, and the squared outside of the parentheses equals c squared. So 4 squared is 16, and -3 squared is 9. So 16 plus 9 equals c squared. We add them together, and that gives us 25. And then we take the square root, and that gives us 5 equals c. All right, so now we have our radius. Our radius is equal to 5. So I'm going to write it over here to the side. Our x equals 4. Our y value is equal to -3. And our radius is 5. Okay, so our sine is our opposite over our hypotenuse. So our opposite is considered y over our hypotenuse is our radius. For cosine, it's our adjacent side, which is our x value, divided by our hypotenuse, which in this case we call it the radius. And then our tangent is our opposite side, which is y, our y value. I just want to remember y over, and then x. So we're going to go ahead and set up our ratios. So our y value in this case is -3 divided by our radius, which is 5. And then for our reciprocal function, cosecant, we're just going to go ahead and flip that. It'll be 5 over -3. Now for cosine. On cosine, it's going to be our adjacent side, which is 4. And we're going to put it over our radius, which is 5. And then we're going to go ahead and flip that. It'll become 5 over 4. And then last is going to be our tangent, which is y over x. So our y value is -3 divided by our x value is 4. And then to get our reciprocal function cotangent, we're going to go ahead and flip that, and that becomes 4 over -3. And those are our 6 values of our trig functions. And that's it. If you guys have any questions, you guys can go ahead and leave it in the comments. We'll see you guys later. Bye.